Welcome to another episode of That One Movie Podcast, also known as TOMP. This is the 205th edition of this, the weekly show in which we discuss movies, games, and TV shows in addition to kind of whatever. I'm your host, Jimmy Youthy, joined by my co-host, Holden Sutter.
How's it going today, Jimmy?
Oh, I'm doing just well. Better than Indiana Jones in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I will say that.
He's a little old there. So.
He is a little old.
He's a little older than us.
Of course, feel free to skip to the podcast, any part that you would want to listen to. Use the time codes in the description. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things. We have a great show for you today, featuring our reviews of the first 4 Indiana Jones films. We're going to do a spoiler discussion, so if you want to check that out, again, links in the description, time codes. We're also going to talk about the first episode of Marvel's Secret Invasion on Disney+, so we'll get our reactions to that. We also have some news this week. We're going to be talking about trailer reactions for Challengers with Zendaya, Dumb Money, about the GameStop kind of Wall Street things. The Boom, Drive Away Dolls, the new Ethan Cohen. Ethan Cohen. And additionally, we're going to talk about companies pulling out of Comic-Con. El Muerto is maybe not happening, and more. Buckle your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, because we're about to dive in right now. That One Movie Podcast. Tom.
All right, first, Jimmy, we've got to talk about the TOMS.
If you say so, my beloved Holden Sutter, co-host of this podcast.
Of course, Jimmy, other co-host. The TOMS. TOMS is the rapid-fire segment in which we rate the news of the week in the world of entertainment on a scale of 3 famous TOMs, Brokaw, Bombadil, and Bergeron. Brokaw's the highest, Bombadil's the lowest, and Bergeron is somewhere in between. Jimmy, let's get to it.
All right, sweet Holden. First up, we have trailers. So we have Challengers. This is the new Zendaya movie coming out September 15th. If you are like, man, I just want to see a movie that is entirely a love triangle,
yeah,
this appears to be what it is.
In more than one way, a love triangle, because tennis, you know.
Why is it a triangle?
I don't know. Just love in tennis. I don't know anything about tennis, Jimmy. I just know love is a term, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, Holden, you got to remember, love means nothing in tennis, because when you begin a game and love, you know, here you score first, 15 love. Who invented the scoring of tennis?
I have no idea.
Dumb.
Don't know anything about tennis.
Why doesn't deuce begin at 30-30? There's no functional difference between 30-30 and 40-40.
Okay.
It should just start there. I want my questions answered. I've never looked it up, but I've wondered it.
Maybe you'll get your answers in this tennis movie, Jimmy.
Yeah, maybe I will.
This is directed by, I can never remember how to pronounce his name. It's Luca Guadagnino or something like that. It's
I'm sure that's exactly how you do it.
But he directed Call Me By Your Name and Bones and All, which we reviewed last year on the podcast.
Yes.
So he's a talented director. I'm not sure I would have brought it up on the podcast if it wasn't him and Zendaya, because it's not really a movie I'd care about otherwise. But
yeah. So I'm going to go Bergeron for this one because it's kind of a wait and see for me. Obviously, the director is well known, well regarded for those other movies that he has done previously. However, we got to see. I do like Zendaya as an actress. I like the fact that she is once again playing a teenager and an adult.
Yeah,
at
in
the same time.
movie, and she looks really no different between them.
Because that was the conversation with. Well, her hair is shorter, Holden.
Oh, is okay.
And she wears
That's
sunglasses.
Okay,
yeah,
time
she's got a backwards baseball cap on.
Yeah.
Like
Steve Buscemi.
I was gonna say Chris Rock, right?
Oh, yeah, that too.
And Spiral. But what was I gonna say now? Oh, that was the whole conversation because when what was it? Malcolm and Marie. What was that movie called?
Oh yeah, Malcolm and Marie
came out right next to like Spider-Man, and people were like, "This is weird." But here she is doing it in the same movie. So yeah, Bergeron for me. Holden, the next trailer is Dumb Money, which is about the whole GameStop stock kind of. I don't know what you would even call it. When did this happen?
This was like early 20. Was it 21 or 20?
I don't know, but it was a big deal when it was going down. It was pretty cool to to see this. I don't know that much about it, so I am excited to kind of learn more about what happened specifically in this whole scenario. I'm excited because you got Pete Davidson, Paul Dano are in it. There's a beardless Nick Offerman, which is always cursed.
Yeah, Nick Offerman, Seth Rogen.
Anthony Ramos from Transformers, of course.
Yeah, Shailene Woodley from the Divergent movies.
Oh, I never did see those. So.
Yeah. And then who's the other one I noticed? Vincent D'Onofrio. He's in like a part of the trailer. So quite a stacked cast.
Yeah. Very interesting. It's coming from Craig Gillespie, who did I, Tonya, and he also directed Cruella, the Cruella DeVille movie with Emma Stone. One of the interesting things in this is one of the like billionaires, the hedge fund guys, is a guy named Steve Cohen, who's like mega rich. He also bought like the New York Mets right around this time, and he's like pumping a ton of money into them and doing all this crazy stuff. So he's kind of become even more famous since this. Overall, this is giving me some Big Short vibes,
which I still haven't seen, but from what I understand, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I really like The Big Short. And I think this looks like maybe potentially even more fun, a more interesting story.
It seems to know that it's like it's kind of a silly story, so it doesn't seem to be taking itself that seriously. It's very ridiculous, which I mean, the whole concept, the whole like real life story seems to be that as well. I actually know someone who did buy into the GameStop stock, but like close to its peak, so they didn't really earn any money on it. So that kind of stunk, but. I followed the story when it was happening, and I thought it was really interesting, if a bit absurd.
Yeah, sweet. So I'm gonna give Dumb Money actually a Brokaw. This is coming September 22nd.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a Brokaw. Looks fun.
Awesome. The last trailer we got is Drive Away Dolls, which this is the new Ethan Coen movie. Of course, you got some of that Coen brothers dialogue in there.
It's his first movie, I believe, or that he's directed since they kind of started doing their own thing. Because Joel made the tragedy of Macbeth or whatever, which was completely different from all their other stuff. But this seems to be much more in line with a lot of their other kind of movies.
Sure. Yeah. I think it looks fun. I mean, obviously got that fast-paced dialogue. I'm not too familiar with any of the main actresses, really.
The Margaret Qualley, she was like the daughter in The Leftovers.
Okay.
She's also in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She's like the one Manson girl that Brad Pitt picks up or whatever.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so she's in stuff.
Yeah. Man, that's been I do not remember The Leftovers that well, and I've only seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood once, which I need to rewatch that. But you have Matt Damon and Pedro Pascal as kind of supporting roles, kind of tagging along. Matt Damon looked kind of funny.
Yeah, he was
his
like
briefcase. He's like
gripping the briefcase.
It just kind of gave me a little bit of Fargo vibes too, with like these people who are just completely out of their realm and caught up in this crime thing going on, and
seemingly completely on accident.
Yeah. So
pure coincidence.
I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. This also comes out September 22nd. Now, if I was between Dumb Money and this, I'm probably going to go with Dumb Money over Drive Away Dolls as what I would prefer to see. But I guess it would depend on early reviews and that sort of thing and kind of what we're hearing. But
I mean, I want to see both. I'd probably rather see this personally just because it is, like as you said, it has that Ethan Coen dialogue and everything. I'm very intrigued. The trailer doesn't give too much away, and obviously it's like Dumb Money. I already know the story of kind of how it goes down, and I don't really know anything about this. So I think I'm a tad more interested in this, but it seems like it'll be kind of a good weekend for movies, hopefully. So.
Sure. Sweet. That is trailers for this segment. All right, Holden, let's talk about Comic-Con. What's going on there?
Yeah. So Comic-Con... it was kind of strange this week. I was seeing these reports of that like Disney and Marvel are no longer going to be at Comic-Con this year. And then I was seeing like HBO, Netflix, Universal, Sony, all of these people aren't going to be there. I was thinking initially, I'm like, is this like an E3 situation? Have like the companies just figured out that they can do this on their own? But it seems to not really be related to that. I mean, maybe it could turn into that later. But apparently SAG-AFTRA, one of the main actor like unions in Hollywood, is also approaching a potential strike soon, like at the end of the month. If they don't release some like if they don't come to an agreement, I think it was before June 30th, so in like 3 days as of recording, then they might also be striking at the same time as the writers. So it was more of the companies seeing that and being like, well, if this happens, we're not going to have anyone be able to be there. So, but still interesting.
Yeah, weird, because I mean, Comic-Con is a lot of times when we get trailers and we get news updates and that sort of thing. So it will be interesting to see what these companies do instead, and will that transition into a Comic-Con not being a thing, which I know people really enjoy Comic-Cons a lot. I've never been to a Comic-Con.
Yeah, I can't imagine it completely going by the way of E3, like just not happening, because I mean, people do like to go and at least attend the festivities, but I could see at least it being less of a like place to announce things for studios. So
more of a like, go there to buy your exclusive action figure and dress
that
up
kind of thing. Get some stuff signed by some famous people or whatever.
Yeah, do cosplaying and that sort of thing. So I'm going to go, I mean, I guess I'll go Bombadil just because it's a bummer that it's not happening for the people who look forward to partaking in it and participating.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Comic-Con is still happening, right? But there's not much going on.
That's not happening. But yeah, I'll probably give it a Bombadil as well, because I mean, I've never really cared too much about Comic-Con, but I do like seeing the announcements that come out of it. It's always kind of a fun thing to talk about on the podcast. So yeah, Bombadil.
Shoot dang, Holden. What's going on with El Muerto?
Yeah, so the highly anticipated El Muerto movie, which I still can't believe at any point was ever in development, was apparently been removed off of Sony's release calendar entirely, with no sense as to when it might actually be added again. Rumors are that Bad Bunny has left the project as well. I didn't get any official confirmation on that, though. I was seeing a lot of this delays is partially due to his like touring and everything with his music. But yeah, that leaves the question, Jimmy. Maybe we will not see this movie, this highly anticipated Sony movie. How are you feeling about
maybe
that?
El Muerto está muerto.
Maybe.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe it is not going to make it. Look, this is not a movie I don't ever think will be successful. I would love. I am never going to be cheering against a movie. I would love for every movie to come out and be transformative and awesome. So it's I don't look, if this movie. I'd rather have no movie come out than just a really crappy another Morbius come out. So I'll go Bergeron just because I don't want to celebrate the death of a movie. But I mean, was this movie ever going to be good? I'm very skeptical about that.
See, I feel like this movie has just such a morbid curiosity with like, I'm so morbidly curious. Morbiously curious. About how it would turn out, just because, I mean, when they announced it, like,
terrible.
Yeah, it would. But like, it's like this, no one knows who this character is. And it's a character that seemingly has only had a few appearances in the comics. It was really only being made so Bad Bunny would have like a starring role in a Sony movie because they liked him on Bullet Train or whatever. I don't know. Seems bizarre. I'm almost disappointed if we don't get it, but at the same time, good that we don't have to see a bad movie. Well, it'll probably be a bad movie.
Yeah, I mean, the flip side of that coin is, look, nobody knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were, right?
True,
and then,
true.
I mean, it's like one of the largest superhero franchises at this point. Yep. So, you know, two sides to every coin, Holden, just goes to show. Yeah, Bergeron. Or, what did I say? Bergeron.
I think I'll go Bergeron for
there
it,
we go.
Personally.
Holden, Paramount Plus.
Yeah, so Paramount Plus, they within like the last week and a half, they've canceled 4 shows, which they were Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies, Star Trek Prodigy, The Game, and Queen of the Universe. Normally it wouldn't be that notable, but like they canceled them, and then they were like, oh, we're going to remove them from our service soon. And they did it within like 2 days.
Wow.
They just did it super quick. And probably the most notable thing, I didn't check about the other 3 shows exactly, but Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies, the last episode literally came out like 2 weeks ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So like it got canceled, and then it probably was on, that last episode was probably on there for like a week, maybe a week and a half. And then it got removed.
Weird. What strange.
So
tax tax write-off?
Probably. I don't know. I don't know. Like I've seen some people say the Grease show is actually pretty good. I don't know anything about it. I forgot it existed until this, honestly. But yeah, it's like a shame because now there's just like no way to watch these. And we've talked about this with like HBO Max back last year and whatever with some of their shows. But at least in those cases, they usually had like an end date where it was like, oh, this will be taken off in a month or something. But here they didn't give a date, and then they just removed it like 2 days later.
That's crazy.
So you didn't have any chance to binge Star Trek Prodigy or whatever.
Man, not Star Trek Prodigy. Look, I mean, I was never going to watch these, but again, for the creators of these, that stinks, right? I mean, that just is a bummer. So obviously I don't know the financial situation here. I'm looking at this very much from the outside in. So I'm going to go a Bergeron overall just because I don't know. But if you are a creator of the show, then I could see it definitely being a bombadil for you personally. That would just stink that your stuff would just be gone and hopefully it ends up somewhere else, right? On a Tubi or on a Pluto or on, YouTube or something that people can and see it. But you probably won't be getting the same residuals and that sort of thing. And who knows? It's just a bummer because, ideally, you would like to see a lot of streaming originals do well, so then you would see more of them. But I feel like these streaming services still don't quite understand what originals work and what don't. So we'll have to see how this plays out.
I think one of the more interesting things for me is that like Star Trek Prodigy, obviously it's a Star Trek show and that's like such a big core thing for Paramount, Star Trek, and they're just like getting rid of it. Like, I don't,
that's weird.
And I know, I think that one's a kid show or something. So it's probably not, crucial to the Star Trek cinematic universe or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just bizarre. I'll probably give it a bombadil overall. Sorry for any of the fans of those shows.
Dune Part 2, Holden. It's a movie coming out later this year. You have some interesting little tidbit about someone who's going to appear in the credits.
Yeah. So it was kind of a surprise when doing the notes for this week. I saw that our good friend of the podcast, Craig, is it Mazin or Mazin? I can't remember.
I just call him Craig,
Yeah, we're first name basis.
Basis Craig.
I'll say Craig Mazin. He's the showrunner for the Last of Us series and did Chernobyl previously. But he is receiving a writing credit on the film after he was called to do some touch-ups by the director Denis Villeneuve. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I don't know if it's caused by the writing strike at all.
I don't know.
Makes me wonder, but I don't know. I'm just complete speculation there. But interesting. I mean, obviously he wrote a lot of really good things. Does a really good job of adapting things for The Last of Us. Yeah. Obviously Chernobyl is very, very well written. So be interesting to see this. He definitely puts a priority, I think, on characters.
Yeah.
So we'll see how he can kind of flesh out a lot of those characters.
That's probably good too, because I feel like, one of the weaker aspects of the first film is the characters.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, I've only seen it once when it came out in theaters, but I felt like Dune part one was definitely a very plot heavy movie, right? And I think they developed Paul pretty interestingly, but I thought Oscar Isaac's character, whatever, Atreides,
Atreides, Dad Atreides.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dad Atreides. He was pretty well fleshed out, and some of them, but I think there was even more room for humanity in this sci-fi epic. So cool to see. Hopefully, it would not surprise me at all to see Craig Mazin be like, "Oh, I love Dune. It's my favorite book of all time." Just because he said that about The Last of Us a ton. So he just seems like a really exciting, passionate guy who does a good job at enhancing stories. So I'm curious to see what he changed, and I hope he comes out at some point and talks about exactly what he edited after the movie comes out.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting.
The only other thing I know about this was he said in the interview that he talked about this, that he was like, I consider myself kind of out of movies right now, but if Denis Villeneuve comes a knocking, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
So
Denis doesn't come to knock on my door yet.
No, not yet.
Denis, if you want to be on the podcast, we'd love to have you. And I think that's all the news for this week, Holden, already.
Yeah.
Short news segment this week, so we'll have to make up for it with some deeper discussions later. No TOMP eyes this week because we didn't go to the theater, so Well, TOMP is our famous weekly review of Popeyes
That we've done twice.
twice now. We'll have to return next week. So let's go into our spoiler discussion of the first episode of Marvel's Secret Invasion on Disney Plus.
All right. Marvel's Secret Invasion, the newest Marvel series on Disney Plus, based on a fairly popular comic series of the same name. I think it's like a lot of the Marvel stuff. I think it's like loosely based on the name, but like takes a lot of liberties or whatever. But yeah, this stars Samuel L. Jackson returning as Nick Fury alongside other people.
Alongside other people. Very nice. Ben Mendelsohn.
Ben Mendelsohn is back.
Amelia Clark is his daughter.
Spoilers.
I said spoilers,
Oh,
Holden.
okay.
Come
Couldn't
on,
remember.
gee whiz. He doesn't listen to me.
I do not.
Secret Invasion, the first episode, you've seen it. I think the opening 10 minutes, I thought were really good.
Yeah,
I personally,
very interesting.
I thought the opening monologue was well written. I was kind of caught off guard because I think, not that, when I watch a Marvel movie, my like expectations are like here, and then it's a little bit better than that. Yeah. And not that Marvel is necessarily bad, but I just like, especially for the Disney Plus shows, I'm just kind of expecting it to be kind of mid.
Yeah.
And then when they're hitting some nice beats and some actually like good dialogue at the beginning with that monologue, I thought that was interesting. Obviously, you're like, well, one of the this actually the Agent Ross or whatever, or is he a Skrull? And you kind of go back and forth, and then you're like, I think he definitely is. And who's this guy, and what's going to happen? And also just him explaining the plot for someone like me, I don't know anything about, other than it's a bunch of Skrulls shape shifting and stuff. So I thought that was all really interesting, and you had that kind of fun chase and the reveal. And I thought it was just a really well done opening sequence.
Yeah, I did too. It makes context for that character in other movies, like how long has he been a Skrull, or it brings into question with that Martin Freeman character. So but I thought it was really fun. But he obviously gets killed, so we'll see if he returns. Martin Freeman in some way.
Martin Freeman. Was that Black Panther 2 where it was like he should just be cut out of this movie?
Yeah, that was that.
Maybe he was just a Skrull the whole time.
Maybe. Makes
it even more pointless. The main titles have been getting some controversy because they're AI generated or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm in the camp of I think they should have just got someone to make it.
Yeah,
like,
that's
why
right.
not?
I'm like, if you're like a small indie filmmaker, like sure. But you're Disney. You telling me you can't, like, the manpower, you don't have the people to do this?
Mm-hmm. It's bizarre. And, like, the visuals I get what they're going for, but I don't know. I feel like it would just be cooler and it'd have more personality if, like, someone actually made it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just kind of, I don't know. It's, once again, I get what they're going for, but I don't know.
I like the idea of it.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that there was some human element involved in it and like touching things up or animating things a little bit from AI generated art, but it's just kind of weird that they would choose to do that. Whatever. I mean, it's not going to be a deal breaker for me, but way to set the precedent, Disney, of just
it's just embracing AI art, I guess. I did see some people were talking like, oh, well, it's AI art, so I guess it's public domain then, huh? based on what little precedent there is. So.
Yeah. Interesting. I think music-wise, I didn't notice the music a ton, but I think I liked the music pretty. I liked the opening credits music, I think, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
I can't remember it too much. I saw this almost completely. I think I saw it last Wednesday, so almost a week ago as of recording.
Well, I watched it just a few hours ago, so I have no excuse.
You have it more fresh.
Otherwise, I do think there are a couple other interesting things that happen in this episode, but it is just a lot of Nick Fury sitting down and talking with people about exposition.
It's a lot of exposition in this episode.
And then they go, Nick Fury, you really haven't been the same since you came back from your spaceship. It's almost like we're trying to make the audience think you're a Skrull, but you're probably not.
Probably not. No.
Probably not a Skrull.
Yeah, from what I understand, I think like didn't try to read too deep into the reviews for this or anything. It kind of seems like this episode is a lot of exposition, and maybe it's less so later on. But I guess like you're trying to cram everything into 6 episodes. There's a lot of stuff that's happened since with the Skrulls and Nick Fury since last we really saw them in any real detail. So you have to cram a lot in. So I kind of get it, but yeah, it is. It's not the most engaging episode for a lot of it.
No. But what I did like was I liked the whole Skrull rebel nuclear power plant outpost thing.
That was cool.
And that whole kind of society and how it works, and Emilia Clarke walking us through that with the new recruit. And then obviously we find out Emilia Clarke is the daughter of Ben Mendelsohn's character, Talos or whatever her name. Talos is his name, and her name is Gaia, I believe.
Yeah. There was actually a chunk there where I didn't know how they were going to pull it off, but I was like, maybe she's not a Skrull and she's just there. Like,
yeah, well, they were like, well, us warriors, we stay in our human form longer, so it takes more. Whatever. Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Which
nice. I don't know if that actually makes sense in the context of Skrull abilities, but whatever. It makes sense. I'd rather see her just like herself than in all that makeup. And I'm sure she would rather be there and not in all that makeup as well. But yeah, I thought that was all really interesting how not only were they were actually not just shape-shifting into people, they were like recruiting or kind of kidnapping or luring people in to like copy them and then take their mind, the memories, almost like a replicant situation.
Yeah.
And then they're basically just go back and replace this person in society. I thought that was really interesting. So, theoretically down the line, maybe there is Nick Fury's there and he's got the lasers going into his head. I don't think so. I think they're trying to get us to think that.
Yeah, I don't think he is. I think.
All right. Is the main leader like Nick Fury's son? Did Nick Fury get together with the Skrull? Like,
I don't know. I never thought
that's
that.
What I thought they were like.
Maybe
because they're like, Nick Fury, did you come back to space for Talos, Ben Mendelsohn's character, or did you come back for someone else? And he's like looking out the window, and then it goes and cuts to the guy.
That's a good theory. I have not heard thought about that at all.
That's what I was like. And then he talks about, he's like, hey, I have 30 years of hands-on experience with the Skrulls. I'm like, that guy's probably about 30 years old. And then I thought it was a little bit obvious, honestly, when they were in the Russian square where, the Red Square, I think it probably was. I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering it. But when they're like looking at each other and whatever across the plaza. So I don't know if that maybe I was kind of like gaslighting myself. I'm like, am I just reading too far into this, or did Nick Fury have a Skrull kid?
I could believe that. Now I'm going to be curious to see if they plant more seeds before that. A possible review.
I have not looked at anything. I swear, I literally watched it like 2 hours ago.
No, and I don't know. I don't know too much about like the comic storyline. I don't know how if that's like a thing at all. I don't know Nick Fury's offspring, but that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. I was like, oh, maybe that's where they're going. But I don't think Nick Fury is a Skrull.
No.
They're like, Nick Fury, you're off your game. The old Nick Fury, he was always 3 steps ahead.
They plant those seeds, but they also bring up the fact that he's been different since the blip. And I could see that like maybe something happened during that time when he came back that's just like changed him. And I think that's the route they're going to go, is just kind of dive into that a bit more.
His Skrull son was disillusioned by the absence of his father.
Maybe.
And he said, Dad, you were going to get us a new home for our Skrull families and our Skrull mom, but Skrull mom passed away.
And then you died for 5 years. How dare you?
Yeah. There we go.
But yeah, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury is just a lot of fun. He's great. I mean, he's great in pretty much everything he does, Samuel L. Jackson. But yeah, I think he's top of his game here.
Was he the one? Was it Fast and Furious where he was like, I'm just waiting for a call to be asked?
Maybe
he was some big franchise.
God, I'd pay to see him in one of those movies.
He would be great. Make awesome. It happen, Vin. Make it happen. All right. How did he get his like eye? When did he ditch the eye patch? When did that happen?
I I can't remember. There is at one point where you find out that his like eye that I don't know damaged or dead or whatever it is. It's he uses it for like eye scanning stuff.
Okay. Terminator style.
Yeah, I can't remember if once he did that he ditched the eye patch. I don't know. Maybe if we look back to whatever that movie is, Spider-Man Far From Home, where he's up in the space station. That's the post-credit scene of that, right?
Far From Home? Oh, gosh.
Because that was the movie where it turns out that he's Talos, right? He was a Skrull the whole time.
Yeah, that's been a while, too.
I don't know.
But, oh, gosh, not what I was going to say. Oh, another thing that I saw kind of coming was, well, Nick Fury is great, just to kind of conclude that point. What did you get with your midlife crisis? Oh, I got the Avengers.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
But he's playing dumb. He's playing dumb because it's like, oh, you got picked up by our thugs in the middle of the street. Well, yeah, he's like, I wanted to get to you, and then he plants the thing. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, Nick Fury's. I mean, since he's the main character of this show, he's definitely going to have some points where he's not all knowing, but he's a very smart person, so he knows how to get around and whatnot. So.
Yeah.
Olivia Colman is the British. I think she's MI6 or something.
MI6 or something. Yeah. That's the official
MI6 or something.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed that and her interactions. Again, it was a lot of talking about that sort of stuff, but the Emilia Clarke character, Gaia, I think that's interesting how they kind of leave off the episode, because I was pretty convinced that the backpacks were going to be decoys from the beginning.
Oh, sure.
So I guess the open-ended question here is, did she intentionally mislead them and further betray her father's trust, or was she manipulated, and did she actually try to help them, and then but the other people caught on to that, and she was caught in the act of that. So we'll have to see what happens with that the next episode. I would guess they would answer that.
Yeah, it's a lot like Letty in Fast and Furious 6, which you haven't seen.
Wow, thank you.
I'm curious to see kind of how her relationship with their father and with that organization evolves, and hopefully it goes in some really unique way. But yeah, I'm sure she'll betray that group at some point.
Yeah, I can't wait for all the shape-shifting shenanigans.
Yeah,
say
right.
that 5 times fast. Shape-shifting shenanigans. That's what they should have just called it. Marvel's shape-shifting shenanigans.
Good name.
Yeah, it's you get a lot of like the Thing vibes from this, where who do you trust? How can you trust them? It's just going to be fun to theorize. I think this is a great week-to-week show.
Yeah,
it probably won't be as fun. It may be as fun a second viewing, because you see things coming.
Yeah, some more foreshadowing.
Yeah, a lot of clues and stuff. So it'll be fun to get in the weeds, dive in the clues with the rest of the internet. So I think this is just a good, fun weekly show to watch.
Yeah,
it's going to hopefully hold my intrigue. I've already been impressed by the amount of stuff that I found interesting in the first episode, which is a good sign, because I've not found all Marvel shows interesting.
Yeah, no, I think this has a lot of really interesting loose threads. I like pretty much the whole cast, and they all seem to be doing quite well. So yeah, interested to see where it goes. And then I can't wait to read how people are mad it's different from the comics.
Yeah.
So Maria Hill dies at the end.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Kobe Smulders.
And she's like, "You killed me, Nick Fury." He's like, "No, I didn't."
I did not. I have no guilt because I didn't kill you.
I did not hit her. I did not.
Oh, hi, Nick.
Oh, hi. Oh, hi, Talos.
Yeah. So she died. And I mean, I think that ups the stakes quite a bit, because I mean, it's not like she's like a main character or anything, but she's been in these movies since like the first Avengers. Like,
wow, she's been in there that long.
Yeah,
huh?
I think so.
Was she in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Probably. She was probably in an episode or two of that, whatever they could afford to get her for.
Yeah. All right. I think it's a solid start to the series. Do we know how many episodes there
I think it's
are?
6.
6. So yeah, I'm excited for episode number 2 coming out real soon by the time you see this. So we'll have that for you sometime next week. Any last thoughts, Holden?
No, I don't think so. I'm just glad to be getting more Ben Mendelsohn. It's been a while.
It has been,
and he's doing great.
It's been Mendelsohn too long. It's been too long. All right, let's dive into our spoiler-filled discussion of the 4 Indiana Jones films that we have seen so far before next week when we review the 5th and hopefully, let's be honest, final installment of the Indiana Jones franchise, Dial of Destiny. All right, so you've been warned, spoiler discussion of those first 4 films starting right now.
All right, Indiana Jones, the first movie called Raiders of the Lost Ark, or as naysayers would have you believe, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
The naysayers, Holden. The naysayers.
Or Disney Plus would have you believe. But yeah, just called Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, it's a classic, Jimmy.
Wow, what a great analogy. All right, next template. No, I'm just kidding.
Directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yes. The story by George Lucas, and then I think Lawrence Kasdan wrote the script, who did Empire Strikes Back and also co-wrote Force Awakens with J.J. Abrams. The opening scene is just iconic of this movie. Just the visual storytelling here, creating the myth of Indiana Jones. All the, I love how they don't reveal his face for so long. Yep. They show the whip, and they show the hat and all the stuff, and he goes over and takes the poison dart of the tree, and he kind of he doesn't say anything, and that you have Alfred Molina's character and one of the other kind of guys.
I always forget it's Alfred Molina. That's crazy.
Hello, Peter. So he just goes and, poison, still fresh, and they're kind of just following this guy who is just so poised and confident in everything he's doing, and they try to double cross him or whatever at the beginning, and he just takes out the whip, and the gun goes off, and he steps out from underneath the shadow to reveal his face. The music really builds to the tension. Just an iconic kind of opening credits to a film.
One of the most famous scenes in probably all of movies, honestly. It's just everyone knows it. Everyone knows pretty much every beat of this intro. It's very, very cool. Just a perfect tone setter.
Yeah, and then of course they go into the kind of temple, I guess, itself, which is just iconic in of itself. With they go in, and then the spiders,
there's booby traps,
spiders everywhere,
spikes in the floor.
Yes, they go in. Oh, there's the previous guy who was a couple days ahead of us or whatever, and they move on, and the booby traps, and they do the whip to get across the dark chasm down who knows where, and just kind of what's the line where he's like, oh, there's nothing to fear here, or whatever. He's like, that's what scares me, or something like that. And then he traces out, and the arrow comes and hits the little wooden post, or whatever he was using, his torch or whatever it was. That's great. And the golden idol itself is just such a magnificent prop design.
Yeah, it's so beautifully generic in a way. It's just could be it, but it's very pretty and iconic still.
Oh yeah, and it's just the shimmer of it, and the way that it bounces the light and refracts everything, just to warm up the entire scene, especially on Indy's face as he's weighing it with the sand and trying to figure out, and the tension. And I love they cut to Alfred Molina's character, and he's going the money, rubbing his fingers together. Just the visual cues for all the stuff that's happening here. And then, of course, John Williams' music just complements everything to perfection. There's so much great stuff.
We'll just say that for every movie. The John Williams music is so good.
But I think particularly here, I mean, you have the kind of the map room scene as well, which is the music makes that. That is such a lame scene. The map room scene with the staff and the laser going down.
If it weren't for John Williams' music, it would just be, who would care about that
boring,
scene?
lame scene.
And the music during the climax of the movie too is just that's one of my favorite tracks, I think, honestly.
Yeah. Fantastic, obviously. And then the whole thing starts coming hard, and he just runs through all the arrows, and you throw me the whip, I'll throw you the idol, and that whole exchange, and going sliding underneath the door.
And
everybody's
grabbing the hat.
Yep. I think it's actually not the hat yet in this one. I think it's actually it's his whip or something.
Oh,
because I thought it was his hat too, and I think it's not. I think it's actually the rest of his whip.
Mandela effect.
I think it is a Mandela effect situation because
does he grab his hat at a different point in one of these movies?
In Temple of Doom, he does.
Okay.
When they're like trapped in the closet, the spikes are coming down. He does grab his hat there.
Okay. So
very similar situation.
Sure.
I may be wrong, but I believe that's standing out to me that it wasn't his hat.
Okay.
But then he comes across, and then there's Alfred Molina's body with the spikes. And then it's like kind of reminds me of like the Apple events where they do and one more thing. If you're familiar with that, it's like you just sat through the most amazing thing ever, and there's finally this moment of relief, respite, and all of a sudden the boulder starts coming down.
Which I have always been fascinated with how round that boulder is.
Oh, unbelievable!
In context of like the world and everything,
that's the artifact right there.
Yeah,
Forget
right.
the gold item. This perfectly smooth boulder. Amazing. So yeah, and escaping that all to just get out, and there's Belloc just to nab it away from him. And then the whole just running out and escaping, and I love the shot where he's running up the hill and it's all by himself, and then you can see all the kind of indigenous people chasing after him.
Yeah, that's
a few seconds later.
This is so good.
And then
Jock, start the plane.
Jock is just fishing. He's like, I like how he's like, Doc, start the plane. He's
trying to finish it
he's
up.
like, I think I got one on the line here. It's Jock. He's got the snake in there. Snake's on a plane. And why is there a snake? There's a snake in here.
I can't remember the snake's name.
I can't.
Oh, that's so-and-so.
Yeah. Like Buttercup or whatever it is.
That's Tulip.
But that was really fun. Lots of just, again, iconic opening. And then I love it when he's a professor, because I'm like, this is why I ended up with the career I have, teaching ancient history.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because Indiana Jones.
Because I love Indiana Jones. Like, this was like my childhood, was fourth grade, was Indiana Jones. And
I don't think I ever really watched these movies until like maybe middle school. All of my nostalgia for these movies is the Lego Indiana Jones video game.
Interesting.
That's like all the music is like nostalgic because I remember where it's at in the game, and like.
So when would you have played that?
Before I watched the movies, 100%. I would have played that like when it first came out, which would have been like 2007, something like that. It was like right after the Star Wars games.
Yeah. Let's see, Lego Indiana Jones.
But I 100%ed that game when it first came out. I played it all the time with like my brother, and video game, the original Adventures.
The original
2008 looks like North America 2008.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, would have been like 9, 10. It was right around the time Crystal Skull came out.
So you never saw Crystal Skull in theaters?
I did. Might have actually. Maybe I saw Raiders once when I was younger, but other than that, I think all I saw was that I remember was that and Crystal Skull. And we'll talk about it when we get to that movie. But Crystal Skull used to be my favorite one. When I was a kid, that was my favorite.
Oh man. I mean,
that hasn't held fast. Let me tell you.
Okay, that's changed.
Yeah,
all right,
that's changed.
We'll do our rankings later. Maybe we'll have some like categorical awards as well. But yeah. So I love it when so this was great. I had like a moment of like, oh my gosh, no wonder I got into the job I have teaching ancient history to middle schoolers. He's writing on the chalkboard and he writes Neolithic. He's like, neo meaning new, lithic meaning stone. I'm like, I have literally done this, Holden. Wow. I have done this. I am basically Indiana Jones.
You need to recreate that scene exactly. Like you write it out just like he does. Yeah. Like remember all the choreography.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah. And then, of course, my students they blink and it says love you on it. Yeah. I get that all the time as well.
Middle schoolers.
Yeah. All the time. But I just thought that was really funny. I'm like, that's me. It's like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's pointing at the TV. But yeah, no, I love this. Again, there's a couple things I think stand out a little bit about Raiders. I think some of it is paced too slowly. Like, yeah, I love the opening sequence. It is every shot is like 2 seconds too long.
Yeah,
I would
kind
say
of agree with that.
I love it. I think it is amazing. I think you could do the same thing in like 25% less time. Like honestly, but the thing that they get away with is the John Williams score.
Yeah, it's John Williams' score, and I think the thing to note about this is there's like no other movie like this when it came out.
No,
like
this is it.
It pioneered this type of adventure movie. I mean, obviously, it harkens back to stories, pulp stories from like the 30s, 40s, and whatnot, but. Like this kind of movie, this kind of scale, Steven Spielberg pioneered it. So the fact that, some of the shots are a little too long, makes sense.
I mean, like Tomb Raider, Uncharted, The Mummy,
all owes to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Among so many others. And even just blockbusters in general. I was actually thinking before I came over here, like, since this is hot off of Star Wars, with Harrison Ford and like Steven Spielberg was getting a name for himself with like Jaws and whatnot at this point, like, I have nothing to back this up, but to me, this feels like it would be one of the first like big hyped blockbusters, right? I don't know if there was hype behind it, but like just all the names and talent behind it.
I would think so.
I
mean, it was in the era of like the original blockbusters.
Yeah,
I think people were going out because especially like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, like that would have,
as well. Yeah,
I would imagine that just blew people's minds. I mean, because Empire would have been the year before. Mm-hmm. So I mean, this would have been the kind of the big movie of the year.
So it's once again can't actually speak for how it went down, but it feels like it'd be one of those first big event movies that we would have gotten
and anticipated beforehand.
Yeah,
like you said, because like Star Wars took the world by storm, Jaws took the world by storm,
but like no one really knew those movies before they came out, right?
Yeah.
Like it was not really sleeper hits necessarily, but not a ton of hype behind them.
Yeah.
It was like word of mouth and stuff, but.
So yeah, no, that's really cool. The other thing that I think just stands out to me is there's some terrible ADR in this movie.
Yeah, yes.
Awful.
Mm-hmm.
Just
I did notice
horrible. Like clearly they are voicing this over at a different time because this did not happen. Mm-hmm. All right. That was another thing that just absolutely stood out to me as a very weird thing.
I'm not sure if I have any I forgot to write notes for this first movie here when I was watching it, so I didn't write down any specific lines or anything. But yeah, I did notice that as well.
Yeah. Bonkers, crazy. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe the resolution wasn't as great. So you would have been able to get away with it a little bit better, but boy, does it stand out here.
Yeah. But pretty much everything else about this movie, I mean, strange ADR aside, and as you said, maybe some shots could be a little shorter. I still would probably consider this like a perfect movie, honestly.
Well, it's close to perfect, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say absolutely perfect because it does have some weird quirks to it.
Yeah, but it's just like it's so crazy that they got the formula down so well on the first go around, right?
Yeah,
like it didn't take like to Temple of Doom or Last Crusade to become like this great series or anything. It was just right off the bat, instantly iconic in every way. And yeah, I think for me, I consider this the best one. Probably.
I think that a lot of the filmmaking and the visual storytelling and just the fact that this created it, I would say that as a film, this is probably like the
that's
best.
What I mean.
Yeah, the best one.
Yeah, the practical effects and stunts for a lot of these scenes are crazy. I mean, they get more elaborate as the movies go on, I'd say. But even just for this first one, like the convoy chase, iconic.
Yes,
in that second half of the movie.
I had that Lego set for that.
Oh, really?
Awesome. Which it didn't include the Ark of the Covenant though.
I think
for whatever reason.
I think I had the Well of Souls. I think that's the one I had.
Yep. Which I have right over there.
Yeah, I believe I had that same one. But yeah, no, there were some good Lego sets for this.
Yeah, no, they were, yeah. But yeah, like you said, the fourth one coming out at the time that it did just was like hit me in the perfect moment. And the Indiana Jones franchise is the reason why I love movies. It was the movie that got me to want to make movies.
Yeah.
And I literally got together with my cousins like every weekend and we would literally move around the Lego guys and make our own Indiana Jones adventures. And I would build temples and booby traps and then create these stories and all that sort of adventures around these. So, tons of nostalgia for me, but like I hadn't seen Raiders of the Lost Ark in so long. And I'm like, this is a dang good movie. Just incredible in so many ways. But yeah, obviously I think if we're going to do like, you could do like kind of awards for this. So like, I think best, love interest, I think is definitely have to go to Marion Ravenwood
100%
in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
And she's great. I like the actress Karen Allen, I believe that's her name.
I do not know that. I'll have to
it's kind of it's strange. I don't know her whole story, but it's kind of strange she's not in more things. Like she's really good in this movie. She's this great
Karen Allen.
Okay, Karen Allen. But yeah, she's fantastic. She's great. She's a great foil for Indy, and she's able to hold her own in a lot of situations. And the history between them is very interesting. But yeah, I think my ultimate takeaway is I don't know why she's not in more. She wasn't in more things.
Yeah, kind of
at least that I've seen.
Strange. Obviously, you have John Rhys Davies as Sala,
great,
and who's the guy who plays Marcus? It's not showing up on this Google thing. Brody. Oh, Denholm Elliott is Marcus Brody, who's a great character as well.
Yeah.
The great Lego set was the plane. I never had the plane.
Oh yeah,
but my cousin
I never had
did.
that one either, but I remember seeing it.
That's a great sequence too. It's just the big muscular guy that comes out and just the propeller. And I'm like, how was this movie rated PG? Like you got people's faces melting and like, how did Temple of Doom? So that was the one that was PG-13 that they had to create the new rating for. And this didn't raise any red flags apparently.
So my dad, when I was pretty young, he pointed out to me that like all of the main villains in this series like die horrible deaths in some way. They're always there's just some in this one like faces melt off and whatnot. The next one, got Mola Ram gets eaten by a crocodile, but like this one, even like the minor like villainous characters like that or whatever, like they all just get they get torn up, they get incinerated, they all like. All of these like big henchmen guys always just
eaten
get
by huge ants.
Yeah, it's horrible. All of it. There hardly any of them just get like shot or anything. It's always just like
which is
exploding.
Great.
Yeah,
which is great.
Yeah, it's very funny, but it's crazy that there's not more like weird I guess shooting for how many guns there are in this series, but.
Optimus Prime would have loved it.
He would.
The only guy who really gets shot to death is like that one guy in Last Crusade, the Brotherhood of the Cruciform Cross or whatever it is. That guy, he gets like shot and then he bleeds out.
Or the iconic the guy in this movie who gets shot during the sword fight.
Oh yeah.
Which is just one of the greatest improv moments I think in movies.
Yeah. So if people don't know. There was this huge choreographed fight with this guy, and Harrison Ford was like really sick that
like
day
dysentery or something
on the set. So they changed it to he just shoots him and then he dies, and then it plays off as a great moment.
Yeah, it plays into the comedy of the series just really well. It's so good.
Yeah, it's great, and of course, the one thing I'm like, did I miss this? Indiana Jones gets onto that submarine.
Mm-hmm. He just holds on.
He just holds on and holds his breath. And then he's just there. And he's just really wet. I'm like, so he's just holding on. Was it like a 15-second journey to that island?
Yeah, no, that's always stood out to me too. Like, I don't understand how he does that, but it's hilarious.
It is.
The other thing I wasn't aware of until I actually noticed it while watching the movie. And then apparently there's this whole online discussion about it was Belloc eating the fly.
Oh yeah. I noticed that while I was watching. I was like, "What the heck?" just happened?
Like a fly. It's when I think it's the moment where he's like Indy's holding them up with the RPG or whatever.
Yeah, it is.
And he's just like talking, and the fly lands on his lip and like seemingly just crawls into his mouth and does not come back out as he's talking. So and there's this whole like discussion online about whether the fly was actually, if it got eaten or whatever, but. I don't know.
Spielberg's like, that's the cut.
That's the cut.
They probably didn't have anything else.
Yeah.
But and you wouldn't have noticed on the day. They were like,
No.
"Oh, we got it," and the actor's probably like, "I'm not gonna
sure.
say anything about me just this fly landing." I'm sure it was really hot wherever they were. And he just wanted to go on with it. Calling his bluff, saying he's not gonna blow up the Ark. I'm like, "Oh man, you got a lot riding on this, man. The Nazis are gonna be pretty upset if he blows up this Ark. You sure you want to call that bluff?" I guess it works out for him, but it doesn't work out because he gets his face imploded or whatever.
Yeah.
So that is a pretty gnarly scene. I love how it just the lid just falls right back on.
No, the like it's dated computer effects mixed with stop motion, but it all looks still pretty good. Like at least very charming of the time.
Yeah.
It's not like distractingly awful or anything. But yeah, the face is melting. That's just traumatizing. I remember I was like, that scared me as a kid.
The eyeballs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PG.
Yeah. PG. Take your kids.
I don't, this is probably something I missed, and maybe it's just because, he knows his archaeology and his history or whatever. Why does Indy know not to look at the Ark?
I think he's just pulling that one out.
All right.
Just because I think it's like, you're supposed to not like bow in the presence of God and all that. And you're not worthy of this, and you need to show humility and be God fearing or something.
Okay, I couldn't remember if there was like a direct line when they were maybe when they were talking with the government or anything about it, like hinting at it. Okay,
no, just completely
pulls it out.
Works
out
butt.
though.
Yeah,
good for them.
All right. Anything else to say about Raiders?
I mean, I feel like we kind of jumped around. I'm just trying to think of like anything in the like Egyptian market we missed that we want to talk about.
We can talk about the monkey.
Yeah,
and
the monkey.
that whole scene where he's throwing up the date and catching it, and the tension of that, and then Salah grabbing it.
Bad dates.
Such a good line. Poor monkey.
Yeah, just died.
Yeah,
it didn't. It was just doing what it was told.
Yeah. I liked all the kids like celebrating when they escaped or whatever. They were working together. And, and then he gets out into that market street, and Marion is caught in one of those kind of bins, woven bins, I guess.
Baskets.
Yeah. Woven basket things with the lid, and there's like 13 of them, and he's like, just shoving them over, and they're like, what the heck are you doing? But that was cool as well.
So good. Yeah. And I guess the other thing I want to mention, just working our way backwards slightly, is the scene at her like bar inn area where it's like on fire. That I was like, this is like underrated. I never hear people talk about this, but like the set and like the fire and everything is like so. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it was real. It just looks so convincing and dangerous.
Yeah,
with how much fire there was.
Yeah, but that was great.
It was awesome.
The one Nazi guy burns his hand. He's a creepy guy.
He is. And I was always, that's a small tidbit harkening back to the Lego Indiana Jones game. In the game, the character has a name, but like he's never named in the movie. And I'm sure probably in the credits it has his name. I guess I forgot to check, but I always thought it was weird because I think I would like talk to my dad about the game, and I was like, oh, this character, did this, and he's like, who are you talking about? Oh, that guy, yeah, doesn't have a name.
No, my son's an idiot. I knew this day would come. Yes, if we think of anything more for Raiders, we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Let's go on to Temple of Doom, which I had only seen once before.
I think so. I think same.
And it was the last one of at least the original three that I saw. I don't remember if I saw Kingdom of the Crystal Skull before this movie came out or afterwards. But of the original three, it's definitely the last one that I saw.
Yeah.
And I thought it was okay when I watched it as a kid.
Mm-hmm. I don't really remember it as a kid.
It was definitely my least favorite of the three. I mean, I did remember, like, obviously, how can you forget Kalima?
Yeah.
Kalima and all that sort of stuff. But in the opening and like them going out of the plane and
stuff,
all the food that they ate and all that. And so I remembered like that, but I didn't remember like the nuances of it. And I was surprised at how much like heart this movie has.
Yeah, it does have a lot of heart. I think this movie is a good movie overall. I think I still kind of agree with like the consensus that it's the weakest of the first three.
I would absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree with that 100%. But like I did rewatch. Rewatching Raiders was like, man, this is a great movie. But this was like the biggest jump for me. Rewatching all four this week.
Sure.
Was like, I have found appreciation for Temple of Doom that I did not have when I was like in fourth grade, and I like it more now than I did as a kid.
Okay, yeah.
And I can talk about some of the reasons why. But just the beginning is really fun.
Yeah,
this is the only one with a different opening titles font. And I think it's the best opening title font.
No, it's that title reveal is great. That's awesome.
I think the skinny black with the just way too heavy white outline used in all the other films is dumb, and it's bad, but they committed to it, so they're stuck with it. Temple of Doom is the only one with the different one. I think it actually looks better, but.
Well, especially it fits the scene a lot better. It'd be weird if they started with that and it just came up with like the Raiders type title font or whatever.
Yeah.
That'd be bizarre. But it's very showy and fun. I still like the other title font. I think it fits those other movies pretty well. I think they just kind of picked whatever fit the scene. Honestly, I think it just works for each one. So
yeah, okay. I think they should have stuck with the Temple of Doom font after the first one. But it's just a fun sequence. Obviously, the musical
Club
number.
Club
Obi-Wan, yeah. Nice and subtle, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And he's got the Raiders, so they had the C-3PO and R2-D2, which I did not see them in rewatch. I can't remember what exactly shot they're in.
I honestly, I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
I know where it is in my Lego set, that's for sure. But that open sequence is really fun, and I just love the negotiation and like, oh, you give me the diamond, I'll give you the antidote to the poison you just drank.
The really good shots of like the lazy Susan like being passed around and everything. That's so good. I had forgotten like I knew how the scene went down, but this was probably like honestly the part I remember the least out of maybe any of these movies was just like how like the dialogue and everything plays out. And
oh yeah,
it's a lot of fun. I really liked it.
I had forgotten that he had like the little waiter friend who was kind of on the side, and I was like, oh yeah, that's the guy who gets shot and died. I said, well, he gets shot and dies. There you go.
Yeah, he does.
So yeah, that whole sequence and them like they're just laughing hysterically, and Willie's over there. Willie is the worst. Willie's just the worst.
Well, yeah,
I don't know if there's anything redeeming about Willie.
I don't really know I don't know aside from like them trying to do something different from Marion. I don't really know what they were trying to do with like why they were doing it that way.
I want like this movie would have been so much better if they just brought back Marion Ravenwood, and I don't know if it was a reason why they couldn't. But I just think that Willie, like of all the things that I think hold this movie back, I think Willie is like among the highest ones. Because it's just like first off, she's just a one-note character of just like the most high maintenance person of all time.
Yeah,
I'm going to complain about everything.
The only joke with her is that she's she doesn't like being out dirty and being out in the wilderness.
She's a caricature.
It's done. I don't know if you remember if you did play it, but like in the Lego video game, her whole bit is that she screams really loud and you can use it to break glass. It like they play into that. Like it's literally a tool you can use. It's so good. And she's like a useful character in that way, but like they play into that in that game because she just screams so much in this movie. Like,
and also, why is she along? Like, what is like? Well, how does she even like? He just is like, "Oh, you're pretty. You're just gonna come with me."
Yeah,
I guess.
no,
like,
it doesn't make any sense as to why
she.
she goes with him. Like,
oh, diamonds. Oh.
Like, sure, the guy, whatever the gangster character in the beginning. I don't remember the
it's like
name.
Something Che or something because it's on the plane.
Lao Che.
Okay, that's it. Because he closes the plane door and he's like, "Oh, goodbye, Dr. Jones," or whatever he says, which is great. Yeah,
and like, sure, he makes it clear he doesn't really care about Willie, but it's not. You would almost expect her going with him being because he like threatens to kill her or something, but he doesn't.
He does. It's just like there's no reason until they're like why she gets on this plane with him. And,
it's bizarre. I don't get it.
Yeah. I guess he needs her at first because she has the diamond, so he just grabs her. But then he gets the diamond,
and then why
does she get on this plane with him? I don't know.
But we're also introduced to Short Round.
Yes,
in the
which I love him like stepping on the gas, so you can see like the block. That was iconic, so and great. And
hold on to your potatoes.
Q icon is great.
He's so good. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Short Round is a great sidekick character.
He is, which when I was little, I thought he was annoying too. So I thought Willie and Short Round were both annoying. And this time I loved Short Round. I'm like, Short Round's great. I love how he's just like, oh, you don't talk like that to Dr. Jones. You called him Dr. Jones.
Yeah.
Like, lady, you call him Dr. Jones. And I thought that was really funny, and how he just vouches for him, and their whole backstory of like how he was trying to pickpocket him and how he didn't have parents or whatever because they died. And I thought that was all really sweet. And I think a lot of the heart of the movie comes from their dynamic. And honestly,
it's very Sully and Nathan Drake in a way.
In a way, yeah, sure.
Like I could see that dynamic being inspired and expanded upon based on this, honestly.
Sure. Yeah.
Like if Short Round were in more Indiana Jones movies past this.
You almost don't you wouldn't even need a love interest character. You could just have done Short Round in Indiana Jones. I would, who would be a good third character to fit in there or something? I think it's just too bad because I think that the stuff with Willie just takes away so much, and a lot of it just doesn't age well to begin with. The actual relationship stuff with it, like the scene where they're like trying to wait each other out or whatever. Is just
that scene is. I mean, not only is it aged kind of poorly, but it's also just like excruciating because it takes up so much of the movie. And it honestly, it's not like a huge chunk or anything, but it's like
it kills the pacing.
Yeah, it does. Just get back to something interesting.
I think the other part that they just try to take the gross meter of everything up to 11, and I just don't think it. And then it's like, oh, here's something gross. Oh, here's Willie reacting to something gross. And that is I think the second half of the first act of this movie. So if you like divide into 6 chunks, the second
when
chunk,
they're at like the palace and
and they're getting towards the palace with the elephants and stuff. I think that just is. And
that's
where they first meet the village and they're, eat the food, Willie. You're being,
they do the food bit like so much.
Yeah.
Like it's already not great that you do it once, but it's just, I don't know.
And then they get to the palace and it's the whole meal and all this food. And oh my gosh, we have to freak out.
Several courses, got to bring it out.
And I think you don't need Willie for that. That could be just Short Round being like, oh no, Dr. Jones, I don't know if I can eat this stuff and all that. And then him explaining to, because he's like a kid and he doesn't go, Indy. Because, the monkey brains and all that. But I just thought that part is just, even maybe like if you do it in the second and third chunk, maybe that combined is like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's if you can just skip over that part. Because I think, honestly, the rest of the movie after that is pretty good when they actually get to the Temple of Doom stuff.
I think my big problem with the movie, and it does kind of carry into the Temple of Doom stuff, is I feel like, especially in like, I guess maybe it is, especially in that like second and third chunk, but carries over a bit, is it feels like they don't have like any agency as like characters. It kind of feels like they just are bumbling around for a lot of the movie and they just kind of happen around it. And like Indy's archaeological knowledge is not really of any use aside from like some vague background on like the village and stuff.
Yeah, well, he knows about the Shankara stones and then he has the little scrap of like Shiva and something, over here and whatever. So like, the whole scene where they get stuck in the booby trap and Willie's got to help them escape and she's got to reach in and it's gross, Indy. I can't do it. Willie, do it now. His fist is just through the thing. Willie, do it now. And she does it. And again, you could have just had Short Round be like, I don't know,
just if Indy be in
or
trouble
just or like Marcus or or somebody, because I feel like Marcus is a funny fish out of water. Or you could have had Marion again, like, oh, we're something like that, and she's along with his adventures now. But I don't know. I'll quit harping on it because I think I've made my point. But I think from that point on, they watch the ceremony and the Kalima, because their whole thing at that point, right, is they need to get the stone and return it to the village. That's the agency, right? And this is where I think Temple of Doom really has the heart that, not that other movies don't have. I just think it's like a bonus thing that kind of brings more depth to the character of Indiana Jones. It's like he gets the Shankara stones, and he can leave, and the movie can be over. And this is a moment that I thought was really nice. Is he's got the stones, he's about to leave, and then he hears like the kid call out in pain or whatever, and he stops. And I think that was a really I was like, that was an effective moment, because he's the movie, what they set out to do has been accomplished, and now the movie has changed into something else. And I think from that point on, and I would lump in the Kali Ma stuff beforehand, just because that's so cool and iconic. And terrifying if you're a kid. Just the guy going down,
Rated
getting
PG.
incinerated. No, this is PG-13.
No, I think this one's PG.
No. This is the Temple of Doom is the reason why PG-13 became a rating.
But I think we should look it up.
All
I'm
right.
under the impression that it was because of this movie, but this movie came out before they made the change.
Okay. All right. Temple of Doom. Let's see. Oh,
Just Temple it.
yeah, it is PG. You're right.
Yeah, so PG. Because
Because of this movie.
Yes.
You could have made the argument for the first one. So yeah, PG. There we go. I love it. Bring your kids. That's all great with it. And I like how they had the guy start on fire before he reached the lava too. Good.
Yeah.
A little bit more scientifically accurate. After the part where you
Indiana
take
Jones movie.
Yeah, where you take out the guy's heart and he's still alive and it's just burning in his hand and pumping that. Yeah. I like the rest of it to be scientifically accurate.
Yes.
But I was going back to that moment where he's like thinking about the kid, and I love that, because it shows it's like, his Han Solo moment, that like he can go away with the money, but he comes back and helps the Rebel fleet destroy the Death Star. Spoilers for Star Wars.
Okay. If you need that.
But I love how essentially Indiana Jones and Han Solo are just the same character, and how Harrison Ford loves to play one of them and hates to play the other, which I find hilarious, because they're the same person, just in different settings. Maybe you could make the argument that Indiana Jones is just more book smart than.
Oh yeah, I would think so. Han Solo,
but otherwise they're pretty similar. So I thought that was really nice. And then they get caught, and the whole like drink the blood brainwashing bit, and the kind of voodoo doll sort of thing. A lot of those creepy elements again, and then the child slavery, which is just like it's horrifying and creepy and all that. But I honestly. The other part I love is when Short Round, burns him and he kind of wakes back.
Him
out
trying
of it.
to appeal, or to Dr. Jones and his inner, goodness and whatnot, trying to break him out of the spell. It was very cute.
Yeah,
Dr. Jones, you're my best friend.
And I love Short Round like doesn't give up on the humanity of people, because he does it with Indiana Jones, and he also does it with like the Prince kid too. He like wakes him up, and then they're like, oh, let's work together to get everybody free. And I just thought that was really adorable.
Yeah.
And I think Short Round just brings a lot of that fun, youthful energy to it that you don't necessarily have that in the other ones.
Yeah.
So I really like that. And I just think everything, honestly, from when Indy kind of snaps back into it, I guess. Everything from that point on is just really exciting. I couldn't remember all the stuff that happened before the minecart chase.
Yeah, with the other ceremonies, trying to get Willie out of the cage and whatnot, and all of that's great.
Well, and then just all the fighting that takes place where they're breaking the kids out, and like you have the fight on like the conveyor belt,
the rock crusher thing.
That one gets crushed. They actually didn't show that much of it.
No, it's just like a smear on the roller thing.
Yeah,
but
it's great. But all that stuff, and then of course the minecart chase, which is great. And if you, the making of that's pretty funny, because like they used miniatures and dolls for part of it. So if you know that they did that, you can tell.
Notice it. You can notice.
But
it.
if you don't know, it honestly is pretty seamless if you're not looking for it. But it's funny,
and it's only some shots of it too. They do a big like a combination. I think they do. I mean, part of it was actually on a track that they were riding on. I think it was. From from what I understand, it was like just like a small roller coaster track that was
Makes sense,
maybe
yeah.
in like a loop or something, and then they would change the lighting depending on where they were in the scene. But so that it's pretty seamless. Looks great.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
They get out of that, and then you have the big fight on the bridge, which is great too. And oh my gosh, what are you doing? Or whatever Willie says, and he cuts the bridge in half. That's a lot of fun. And the priest guy, what's his name? Did you know his name?
I can't remember the priest guy's name. The villain.
Yeah.
Mola Ram.
He's got a great costume design.
Yeah, he does. The big horns.
Best costume design goes to Temple of Doom, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Great. And that whole sequence.
What's his line he says when he cuts it? It's like, you'll see
I'll see something in hell or something. Yeah, you'll see Kali Ma in hell or whatever.
Kali Ma in hell. Says the Harrison Ford way of saying it. It's so good.
And then the crocodiles. Some of the effects when they first cut the bridge, that looks great. That was like, oh my gosh, that looks amazing. And then they show the Mullah Ram or whatever his name is falling and
like hits a rock.
It
kind of bounces off. Made out of rubber.
And then just immediately like the crocodiles.
Yeah.
Once rolling, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think honestly, like it doesn't look very realistic with the crocodiles, but I think it's probably the best way you could do it.
Oh,
like,
that looks much more grounded in what they've established than the green screen.
Yeah, that looks but it's just like it's like when it shoots the crocodiles, it's already like basically just tatters of clothing and everything,
which is fine.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, you get the idea. So yeah, lots of great stuff there, and then I teared up actually a couple times during this, which I was not expecting to do during Temple of Doom. One was when Short Round and gives Indy his hat back, and Indy puts the Yankees cap back on Short Round. I just was like, oh, that's just such a touching moment. And again, I was not expecting to like Short Round, so I got attached to him, and I thought that would just warm my heart. And then the other moment is when the kids are all reunited with their parents, and I'm just like, oh, it's so nice and all that. And yeah, I think there's a case to be made here that, is this like another just white savior movie? Sure, you could, if that's a deal breaker for you. I just think of it.
I hadn't even thought about that, but
it's Indiana Jones itself is a relic of its time, right?
Yeah.
There's things that you wouldn't make this the same exact way today. It's not, this movie's not timeless, but there are things within it that are, and that's one of those things that I always kind of remembered the things I didn't love about Temple of Doom, and watching it this time, I didn't realize how much there was to love within Temple of Doom.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff.
And I think there's some new good music too, as well, that's expanded upon. And
Short Round's theme is really fun.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed this one a lot more than I thought I was going to.
One thing I can't believe because I don't feel like I usually notice things like this, but I noticed when they get back to the village, they're just clean. They look great. I think they've got all of their costume back. Like Indy's got his jacket back on and everything.
Well, it is a couple days hike, so maybe they just went and made them.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. I just thought it was very funny that they look very.
Clean. They got that village back going in a couple days.
Yeah, that stone had some powerful properties.
Yeah, it did. But yeah, that was just a fun kind of ending to the movie. So that's Temple of Doom.
The other thing I wanted to mention, because it might come up later, Dan Aykroyd has a cameo in this movie.
He does? When was it?
He's the guy who sets them up on the plane at the beginning of the movie.
Oh,
when they're walking up onto the tarmac.
I did not realize that.
Well, you don't see his face, and I think I had heard he was in this before. I'd completely forgotten, but like the way he was talking, I'm like, that sounds like Dan Aykroyd. He was like, oh yeah, get on the plane. I'm sending you that way. And like the way he's talking, like that sounds like Dan Aykroyd. And I was like, oh yeah, it is. So. There you go.
The more you know.
Cameo.
All right, Holden. On to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. This was the first one that I saw because we were at dinner and my dad was talking about Indiana Jones. I'm like, this movie sounds amazing. And to be honest with you, I think I'd seen the end of it on TV once with some of my relatives. Just like, the 3 challenges on. I thought it was cool. was like, I gotta see these movies. And the new one was gonna come out like a year later or whatever. And so we like stopped by the library and they didn't have Raiders of the Lost Ark. They only had The Last Crusade. I'm like, well, I guess I'll just watch the third one first then. And I did. And I was like, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. So I was a little bit nervous to rewatch Last Crusade because I knew it was my favorite going in. And I still freaking love this movie so much. I think it's not the best movie of them, but I think it's the best Indiana Jones movie. I think it is just nonstop, incredible Indiana Jones moments from like almost from beginning to finish.
Jimmy, I will say, you have a converted man. I think this is my favorite now.
Yes, sweet. I was waiting for you to be the complete devil's advocate.
No. This movie is great. I'm of a similar mind where I still think Raiders is the better movie overall, but this is at least my personal favorite. I don't know. It's got like it's paced so well. I think that's part of it.
Well.
It's like it is nonstop action set pieces, like great moments between characters. It's the funniest movie out of all three.
By far.
All four.
It is so funny.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's just like, and even like I feel like in a weaker movie, you'd have this, which we can get into the intro in a bit. You'd have the intro sequence, which is like 10 minutes long and is completely like separate from the rest of the movie. That would kind of like be a weird setup, maybe start the pacing off like strangely, but it works so well here.
It works so well because it's just an exciting sequence to begin with.
Yeah.
And they do, they have the fun on the note, like, oh, this is how he gets the idea for the whip. And this guy is the role model for who he is. And he's like, and why he's afraid of snakes and how he gets his, scar.
It all happens within a few minutes.
Yeah.
It's very fun. I like that. That's like something that people make fun of now in movies, like Solo.
That was what I was thinking of too. But I'm like, it just works so much better here.
It's just like it's convincing. Sure, it's a little cheesy that all of this stuff happens at once, but it's exciting. It's fun, and it's all done. It makes sense within the context of the scene, even if it's a little funny.
Yeah, and it's a fun sequence. It's a train sequence, which of course I love.
So you like that?
But I love how like he's just such a noob at everything too. Like he tries to jump on the horse and the horse moves, and he's trying to tries to do the whip, and he gets the scar on his or the lash on his chin and whatnot. He's not afraid of snakes at the beginning, which is a great touch.
It's just a snake.
What's the big deal? But throughout all of that, and as fun as that sequence is, it also helps establish the relationship between him and his dad at the end. Yeah. And kind of you have like the bad guy who's almost like a likable kind of outlaw sort of guy. Like, you lost this time,
Indiana
kid.
Jones becomes
you lost this one, kid, and the other, woo, we got the money. I almost like the guy who's like, woo, the one henchman who keeps celebrating. But yeah, that's just, there's so much fun to be had there. The John Williams music there is just phenomenal too.
River Phoenix is a perfect young
River
Indiana
Phoenix
Jones.
is so good as young Indiana Jones.
This is how you do young casting for like characters. This is like textbook. He embodies Indy, like everything about him so well. He's really great at, doing the transition stuff. Like when he becomes afraid of snakes, he isn't at first, but then he is. And he's so good.
Yeah. He was very, very convincing, which is phenomenal. It's too bad that River Phoenix died
lost
tragically
him too soon.
Yeah, but that is obviously the role that I will remember him for forever. But I love the match cut of sorry you lost today, kid. He puts the hat on and it cuts up, and
I wrote that down. I'm like, that's one of the most probably iconic transitions. Like,
I got goosebumps.
It's so good.
I got goosebumps. I knew it was gonna happen. I'm like, oh, it's so good. I still love it. And then he's smiling, and it's just getting punched in the face. I'm like, heck yeah, Indiana Jones, let's go. And that boat sequence is so fun, and it just campy. This is like, it's the right amount of campy. It's just like it goes right to that line, but it does not cross it almost at any point. So it's like that the cross of Coronado belongs in the museum. You belong in a museum. And just that whole fun, and the ship blows up when he's in the ocean.
The boat set is like really impressive because it's like it's rocking back and forth. It's kind of hard to tell how much of that is just camera and whatnot, but you still have like the water sloshing everywhere, various like boxes sliding around. It's really
I would think that they would have had a rig, and they were just shooting water at that thing.
It's so cool.
But it's great. And it's honestly like that looks like something that would have been just fun to be on the set, because it would just be like being at a water park with something, you know, like you would just not even have to act at that point. You'd just be playing Indiana Jones. But yeah, so you get that. He goes back in. Even like the more mundane stuff in this movie is more fun, right? He's giving his lecture and he's like, all right, you have a question, come see me. And then there's just 30 kids, students waiting for him in the hallway, and he's like, "Oh gosh!"
And he sneaks out the window,
which is a nice touch. But again, I think like just boom, boom, boom. Like this movie just does not let up with all the good scenes that it has. Even oh gosh, now I'm forgetting the bad guy's name.
Walter Donovan, who is in Tar.
Don't trust anyone, Dr. Jones.
He was in Tar.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He's great.
He's a fun villain. I don't know. I mean, once again, I think I played the video game first before I watched this one, so I probably knew he was a villain. I don't know if I would know he was like the villain if I was a kid watching this.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah. Like he's very convincing, and yeah, sure, he's this rich, powerful guy that could easily become the villain, but he's very convincing with his first talk to Indy, and he seems genuine, just like
he does
interested, and so I don't know if I watched this the first time if I would know he's the villain.
Yeah, and like in just the wordplay again of like, oh, you got the wrong Jones. It's like, well, we tried your father. Yeah, he's the one who's missing, and then the tension, the stakes have been raised. Now Indy's gotta go, and it just gives a lot of that agency to it.
One thing I wanted to mention before you move on too far is in the scene with him in the classroom when he says X never marks the spot,
which is great.
So good.
X never ever marks the spot, and then he gets to the library. X marks the spot. I love it too when they get to. I love how Marcus is just along for a lot of this too.
He's so good. Marcus he was only in a bit of the first movie. But he's a great little sidekick here.
Marcus and Salah have great dynamics that they bring to it as well. So that was another thing. I think this is the most fun because it's got like this band of characters that are along with Indiana Jones. This is the best like ensemble, I would say. If you're gonna give out awards, this was the best ensemble one. When they get to Venice and they're like, oh, this Dr. Schneider or whatever it is, and then it's like, I wonder who he is and him, and then it's the lady Elsa, which is a nice touch there. But of course, Indiana Jones, the player that he is, just immediately tries to court her.
Just like the moment he sees her, you can see like the change in his face because he was expecting to see just this probably old guy, and he just sees this beautiful blonde woman like, oh well.
And they go right to the next scene, like no waste of time. All right, now we're in the library. Oh my gosh, the library is the tomb itself, and then the 3, the 7, the 10. That is just so iconic. Yeah. And the scene or the library, the librarian, and timing it up with that. That I just remember seeing this as a 4th grader. I thought this was the funniest movie I'd ever seen. Like, not only is it the best like action movie I'd ever seen in my life at that point, it was like the funniest movie I'd also ever seen. So just both of those. Again, I was like, I had so much fun watching this as a kid. And just to be able to relive that experience, and they go down and there's the rats, and then it's petroleum, and the whatever, the cruciform cross guys or whatever, they come down, they light it, and they have to get in the air bubble, kind of Pirates of the Caribbean style.
There's the bit where they see the etching of the Ark of the Covenant. And Elsa's like, what is that? He's like, the Ark of the Covenant. She's like, are you sure? Pretty sure.
I had forgotten about that moment. I was like, that's funny. Maybe it's because when I first watched it, I hadn't seen the first one, but I have seen it since. So but not in a long time. Once I had not seen any of these in probably 10 years at least.
I rewatched this one a couple years ago after you had said it was your favorite, but that's probably the most recent one I'd watched, and the other ones were several years before that, I'd say. But
yeah, that whole scene. But then they get out of that. They get out of the sewer, and then all these people are like eating lunch in Venice. And then they have the immediate chase of like, of course, how did they even know they were getting out there or whatever? Who cares? They have this boat chase, which is fun, exhilarating.
Boat chase is so good. And honestly, I don't know. This might be bold. It might be my favorite action sequence of the whole.
Really?
Of them. Yeah. I think for me, it's entirely because of the end with the propeller like chipping away at the boat. Like it's so cool. It looks so real. And it feels so dangerous. Like,
yeah, how did they film that? Because it's definitely real.
Yeah.
So it's like, what safety precautions did they have? They're like, well, we'll just turn it off if he gets close, I guess. That'd be worth looking up.
Yeah, but that in the chase itself is pretty fun. So there's some green screen, there's some real stuff there, but I don't know.
Most of it looks pretty convincing.
Yeah, there's a couple scenes where like it's front on and you can tell they're driving on a green screen or whatever. But most of it's and then they go between the boats as they're closing in.
Between them? Are you crazy? Are you going between them? Are you crazy? But yeah, and then the huge explosion and just the hull of it comes through. That's just. Back when they just blew things up for real. They were like, oh, it's not CGI, just blow it up for real. And that you can't replicate that with CGI.
No.
In the same way, but so much fun. They kind of see eye to eye with the one leader, the cruciform cross kind of group, which I thought was cool. Just to think about these like crusaders, this secret society of these crusader guys all over the world, which is kind of fun. Mm-hmm. But then we haven't even gotten to Sean Connery yet. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, it's like an hour in when he's introduced.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Because their chemistry immediately is so good.
Even though apparently he's like less than 10 years older than Harrison Ford or something.
Yeah, because Sean Connery's still alive, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Maybe. But you can double check. But yeah, like Sean Connery I think was less than 10 years older than Harrison Ford.
Sean Connery, are you still alive? No, he's dead. Died a couple years ago. A few years ago.
Oh yeah,
Halloween.
Oh.
But Sean Connery, unfortunately, but he's amazing in this. So good. Junior. What did you think of Indy's Scottish accent?
I thought it was really good. I actually made a note of that. I'm like, why? This is like actually a really good Scottish accent. Why is he good at this?
Here, just see what does he say? Not the drapes. It's the
tapestries.
Tapestries. Yes, this is a castle. Yes, we do have tapestries. and then he just punches him or whatever the line was. He's like, "Oh, you hear that?" And that's all great.
That was like it was like a weird. It kind of almost felt out of place because I feel like Indy doesn't really do that kind of thing where he fakes an accent to sneak in somewhere. But it was a fun little shenanigan. I thought it was cool.
Yeah. I think he's in this room. How do you know that? It's wired or whatever, and it shows in the background. But that's just fun how he goes out the window, he whips across the other side and kicks back in. Like, what kid does not want to be Indiana Jones at that point? And then he gets hit in the head with the vase, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, are you like?" And he's like, "Are you okay?" Or whatever. He's talking to the vase or whatever it is, and he's like, "Oh, I will never forgive myself." "That's okay, Dad. I'll get over it." Like, this was 14th century Ming Dynasty. Oh no, it's a fake. But that whole sequence is great, and just Sean Connery, Henry Jones, not being completely oblivious about how you're supposed to be acting in the street. He just throws it and makes a big commotion, and the Nazis come in.
Their general banter just between those. I mean, you said they have good chemistry, but they have some of the best lines between them. They're so funny,
so funny.
And you can tell there's, I mean, obviously there's conversations later that dive deeper into it, but like Indy kind of resents his father a bit for not being there. And father, to an extent, is basically, I mean, you say he's oblivious. He's basically oblivious about everything except his
absolutely.
work. Like, I mean, he has. He
thought he was a good father.
Yeah, he thought he was doing the right thing, but
it's like I gave you privacy. Yeah. I taught you self-resilience.
Yeah, like,
self-reliance. Fine. What do you want to talk about? Whatever. So I don't know. Then what are you complaining about? But God, that's so funny. And then they get captured in the castle. The whole Elsa exchange. She's like, don't listen to her. She's a Nazi. And you're like, how'd you know she was a Nazi? She talks in her sleep, which is like, I did not get that one as a fourth grader, but hilarious.
That's really good.
Absolutely hilarious in retrospect. But even like breaking out of the castle is fun. The Nazis have a great music theme too. The boom, 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 boom. They have a great theme in this one. And breaking out of the castle, the lighter he's blowing on it. It just spreads to everything. Oh, son, I have something to tell you. Not now, Dad. We can talk about things when we escape. The floor's on fire. And then they get in the elevator and it just and they go around.
The little turnstile thing.
That's great. And they get out of there and Indy falling down the stairs and getting into the motorcycle and all that. And the motorcycle chase,
very good.
Iconic within itself. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Mythbusters tested. Can you put the, rod between the spokes of the tire or whatever? And
I didn't realize they tested that. Did it work?
I don't think it does, unfortunately, but just really fun sequence. And just the visuals of Indy being in the main motorcycle and just his dad being in the sidecar. It's hilarious. And then he'll kill some Nazi in some fun way. And he's smiling. He looks at his dad and his dad just
I'm pretty sure I had a Lego set of this too.
I did.
Yeah.
In fact, I have Henry Jones sitting over there in the sidecar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So there we go. Well, maybe I'll have to pull up my Lego Indiana Jones later. Gosh, just so much fun within that. And then they stop and they're at the crossroads. Okay, Venice or Berlin. And if the Nazis get the Grail, the armies of evil will march all over the world. Whatever he says. We got to go to Berlin.
Like that.
We got to go to Berlin. You want me to go into the belly of the beast or whatever they say? And
Hitler signs his book.
Hitler signing his book is so funny.
That's great.
Because one, it's just hilarious that it's like Hitler. But then two, it's like, here's this, the arrogance of the Nazis. Like the thing they literally need is right in front of them.
They're just
completely oblivious to it because they're so self-absorbed that it's like, we must want just my autograph. All I have to do is squeeze. All I have to do is scream. That's a good line too. Going back to Elsa and as creating more nuance with her character too.
Because she's not into the book burning or anything. She's still a Nazi, but she doesn't agree with everything they do. She's mostly in it for finding the Grail and everything and the artifacts.
Yeah, so there is a little bit more humanity to her character. She's very cunning. Mm-hmm. I think she is a pretty well-written character. Yeah. But the book burning with Hitler, and then they get on the Zeppelin, and that is great too. When they're in hiding, and Indiana Jones he follows that waiter kind of behind and takes his jacket as the other Nazi commander is coming through, and wham, and then everybody looks at him. He's like, no ticket. And they're all,
that's probably the best joke in the movie, honestly, for me. It's so funny. It's so good. Their reaction to it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then they get up and they have the great father-son dynamic of we kind of alluded to earlier and
talking about their
fleshing out that relationship and then explaining more about the Grail and how there's going to be 3 challenges and why they needed to get the diary again in the first place. Which is, the diary is a great MacGuffin, by the way, because it's a MacGuffin that we have to go get it and it propels the plot, but it also is really interesting in of itself and actually kind of in of itself is information that you need to know as well.
It's the Nathan Drake diary thing from the Uncharted games,
which certainly inspired by this. But they we're turning around, so they get into the plane. I didn't know you knew how to fly a plane. Fly, yes. Land, no. But in real life, it should have been fly, no. Land, no. Harrison Ford.
That plane sequence is good. Most of that is just green screen, but it's still a lot of fun.
Still looks pretty good. And then he shoots the back of the plane. Oh, son,
we've been hit.
What happens at 11 o'clock? I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry, son. They got us. And then they land in the goat farm or whatever, and then they're running, and then you have the Nazi planes coming back in. That looks great, and they're just shooting up the road, and they steal that guy's car. He's going to put on the hubcap. That's a great shot,
It's
too.
The
tunnel, and he slides by as they're going through and explodes on the way out. That's just really fun. They're like, oh, it doesn't get any closer than that. The bomb, that has always looked weird to me. They sped something up in there because that footage. That's what I think it is. I think they sped something up. When the car goes into the crater, it looks really funky.
Yeah,
I think they sped it up because when I was little, I was like, "What happened there?" And for a while, I thought maybe it was reversed. I'm like, that doesn't work. So I think it's sped up footage is what happened there. But he's coming back. That guy's trying to kill us. I know, Dad. This is a new experience for me. But the part that I thought was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life was when he gets the umbrella and he spooks the seagulls.
The seagulls that then crash the plane. Yeah, that's good.
I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever seen when I was in fourth grade. And that might be when you said the boat, I think this is my favorite action sequence just because of the campiness, the dynamic, the fun nature of it, the way it evolves from plane to car to on foot. Sort of nature of it. I love the shot where Indy takes his revolver out and you see there's no bullets in there. You know, just all those little things. And like you said, the pacing is so good that you're completely caught up in the moment.
It's interesting. Neither of our favorites is the tank chase then, because I feel like that's like the fan favorite.
That's a close second.
Yeah, that's probably my close second for me.
Because the tank stuff is really really fun, and where's Dad? He's caught in the belly of that steel beast or whatever Sala says.
Indy hanging on the side of the tank and
everything with the treads. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Sticking the rock in the side.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Blow up the cannon. Yeah, that's
awesome. The pen is mightier than the sword. He squirts the ink in the guy's eyes. I loved Henry and Marcus's just fish out of water, sort of both of them being completely incompetent, but stuck in the middle of this tank trying to help out.
We forgot to mention the joke where Brody can disguise himself. Yeah, he can blend in.
I do have a list of jokes here that in lines that I wanted to talk about. So... so the Mark is blending in. You'll know he's got a 2-day head start. He knows he's got friends in every village from here to whatever. He knows 12 languages. He's already gone. And he's like, hello, does anybody speak English?
He's just bumbling around like he's holding a bunch of stuff. And
oh, is that a chicken? Sorry, I'm a vegetarian. And Sala's like, run. He keeps saying run, and then he ends up getting into the Nazi truck, which is a great play on what happens in the first one because it's kind of the opposite. And I was thinking that happened in the first one. I was getting them confused, but that's a great sequence as well. So yes, the tank, lots of fun there. And then obviously it going off the cliff.
Yeah.
And then them all looking out and all that. When he just fits that looks not
a little
great.
janky.
But, that's a lot of fun. And the hat blows over and he picks it up and whatever. But all that perfect stuff. And then you get to Petra. And it's again, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And it just keeps building towards that kind of, I think, perfect Indiana Jones sequence in Petra where you have the kind of mystical temple qualities.
I vividly remember those challenges from the Lego game.
Well, yeah, those are great in the Lego game. Yeah,
it's because like I said, I think I played that before I watched this, and so I would watch the movie. And I'm like, oh, they're doing that thing from the game. It's cool how they did it in the game. And yeah,
but I think each challenge is just super iconic in of itself.
Yeah, they are.
Go walking in, the guys keep getting decapitated. Before the Lord, only the penitent man may pass or whatever.
Yep.
Which is great too, how you have Henry shot. So it's the ticking clock and all that is really good storytelling as well. Good plot devices used to great effect. And then the Jehovah in Hebrew or in Latin, it starts with an I or whatever he says.
That was really good.
Jake. So that's a lot of fun. And then the leap of faith, which I don't think that could possibly work in real life, but in movie that looks great.
Yeah, because I feel like at any angle, there's only like one angle that would look invisible, right?
Yeah.
Like at any other angle, it would look a little off. And even then, like this was set up who knows how long ago. It's this big like canyon, like erosion and whatnot would have probably changed stuff. But yeah,
it doesn't make any sense there. But
but it's still cool.
It's still pretty cool. And cool effect back then. Definitely like a green screen thing, but still looks pretty cool. Yeah, they were able to like align the tracking of the cameras at the different scales, which is pretty impressive that they were able to do that. Which must have been like an ILM thing, I'm guessing.
Probably.
But then you have like the night, and then they have to like you had the 3 challenges. Now you have to pick
the cup,
the right cup, and I can't believe Donovan just came over and just was like, "Oh, I'm just going to do
this one, I guess."
Yeah, pretty worthless if you can't take it outside that temple, huh?
Yeah, right. I guess it's a double-edged sword, huh? Mm-hmm. But the effects of Walter like rapidly aging and like decomposing looks so good. It was like really great stop motion effects. Pretty also once again just disturbing villain death.
Yeah. Just Elsa's like, what's happening to me? What's happening to me? And then he goes, he chose poorly. I'm like, no bleep, Sherlock. like that wasn't the best option, clearly. And then the Cup of the Carpenter, nice touch, knowing your history. It's like, well, I wouldn't know the first thing about what it would be. So let me just have this Nazi doctor pick it for me, who can't be trusted. Why didn't he have them drink first? A little bit surprising me. But who cares? And then I love also the night when he first gets there, he like picks his sword up and he's like, oh,
it just
he
falls
backwards.
Oh, it's great.
And he's like, you're gonna take my spot, right? He's like, yeah, no.
But I like the logic of, it being a humble cup because it's a carpenter's cup, right? Like I think that's really neat, and Indy finding it. I mean, see, even if you didn't think of it that way, I would think that's the one cup that looks different. Yeah. Like all the other cups are very ornate and very fancy. There's this one other cup.
It's more beautiful than I even imagined. There is one line by the guy who plays Walter Donovan that is like when they I think it's when they have they're like, it's some sort of I can't remember if it's when Indy and his dad are tied up or if it's another scene, but like the diary is gone. He's like, we need that diary, we need to have it back right now. And it's like really not convincing at all. Okay. But I was like, that was the one line that I'm like, I don't know if that was all that convincing, but everything else was really fun. And coming back and the effect of him pouring it on his dad's shot to the chest was really cool, and it's how it like fizzes and heals. It's
interesting. Like I'm so used to movies like this, or I mean, you could say like Pirates of the Caribbean in that way as well. I'm so used to like the MacGuffin they're trying to get not actually being like no one is able to ever actually use it, or it's lost immediately or whatever. But they do actually use the Grail in this for like some effect, even if they don't get to keep it. But
and then Elsa's like, Indy, come on, we can have eternal life together. And the seal breaks and her reaching for it. I can almost touch it and losing her. And then Indy's in the same situation. And I love he's like, Junior. And he's not listening. He goes, Indiana. And he's like, oh, he called me by my name finally. And he growls on. That's a nice moment too.
It is, the way that scene plays out is almost... it seems unintentionally funny that like Elsa falls and then Indy is just immediately in that same position. That's probably it's not really anything I can hold against the movie, but I'm like, it's hard for me to take it too seriously when it's like one right after another, kind of funny, but it is a good moment. Still.
Yeah. I am just amazed that literally like within a little over an hour, they created such a good relationship between Indiana Jones and his dad. That's so iconic, because you would think like we're introducing his dad in the what was going to be the final film of the franchise with like an hour and 10 minutes left. Like that sounds like a recipe for a disaster, and they somehow pulled it off.
I know it doesn't help with like the chemistry angle, but I know that, I mean, like it helps that there's a lot of just alluding to their relationship beforehand, a lot of build up that, Indy says an offhand comment that you kind of think, oh, maybe their relationship's not the best. They're kind of estranged or whatever, but yeah, it is still pretty impressive that they did that.
Nice. All right, and then they ride off into the sunset. You find
Indiana
out that
was the dog's name.
Henry Jones Jr. We named the dog Indiana. You are named after a dog? Follow me. I know the way, Marcus. Like that squad is just so much fun to watch. They ride off into the sunset, and perhaps the Indiana Jones franchise should have ended then.
Riding off into the sunset.
But fantastic. It is my favorite Indiana Jones.
My favorite as well.
Film. It's definitely the funniest, and it definitely has the best pacing, and I would say the best action of the series. All right, let's talk about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull from 2008. I remember seeing it in theaters, and I remember seeing it. Thinking it was okay. I remember my thought on it then was I liked it until the end. Which, ironically, I think that might be flipped for me now. I don't like it until the end. I think the end is actually much more interesting than the rest of the movie, actually. Because when I was like, aliens, really, and all that stuff. But now that watching it, I'm like, I felt like that stuff at the end kind of fit more, and how these species was like archaeologists, and the treasure was knowledge, and explaining all these events, and that some sort of supernatural element to it, and how like Irina Spelko, she literally can't handle all the information because it can't be comprehended by the human brain, and another nice, easy, slow, or quick, painless death for our villains. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't remember what my thoughts were on this movie originally. Like I said before, it was my favorite at one point, so there was something I found really appealing about it, but. Yeah, not so much anymore. This movie is like mostly just boring.
That's my problem with it.
It's just there's so much less action. Not that there needs to be a ton of action, but coming off of like The Last Crusade, which is just nonstop things happening, there's just so much downtime in this movie. And it's like I like checked the time at one point, and it was like an hour in, and they were like just getting to like the jungle and stuff. I'm like, what? How has it been an hour already? Like there's an hour left, but it feels like, I don't know, there's so much left to do. I don't know. It just felt like it took forever to get anywhere.
I do think there's some fun parts, like when they're fighting around in Area 51, sure, a little bit, and the rocket car and the atomic bomb part is just nonsensical.
I don't. Why did they put that there?
I don't know. Like it was just kind of a fun thing. It is like beyond Indiana Jones logic though, because like even that fridge goes flying.
Yeah, he would be a pulp. Like even aside the whole could he survive in there from a nuclear blast? But he'd be just mush.
Yeah,
the way he landed and whatnot.
But I'm willing to even overlook that. But I don't know. You have some action stuff that's kind of fun, but it's just not up to the level of anything else. And at the time I was like, well, it's just because Harrison Ford is really old. But I don't think that's necessarily why. I just think it's not all that. I don't know. I mean, I think the rocket power car was kind of fun because you had like the timer start, and then the guys all burn up, and then they all fly. Yeah. Like that was nice. But them fighting around in Area 51, kind of that main boxed area, I don't remember all that much about it, other than he like tries to swing for the one car and he comes up short and he lands in the other one. He's like, dang, I thought that was closer, and he punches the other guys, and that's fun.
That moment's fun. I think one of the things that gets me about this movie is right away, it's like the first couple things Indy says, like the writing is just not there for me. It's like it's like trying to be Indiana Jones, but like his quips just aren't very funny, and it's like, I don't know. It's like something feels very off about it. Like it's not quite there in terms of like the dialogue.
I don't know if I didn't really sense that for me. I just didn't think it was as interesting. I don't know. Or it was just like you said, it was a little slow. The action wasn't as fun. The supporting cast wasn't as fun, right? Because they take the time to develop Mutt, which I actually didn't hate.
I didn't hate Mutt this time.
And I didn't hate Shia LaBeouf's performance either. And I actually, it was fine. I thought that was going to be just like intolerable, and it was completely fine.
It's
and
fine.
Marion's
It's just
thing
kind
is
of
nice.
it's just kind of weird that it's there for me. Like
It doesn't work as well as Short Round, as well as Marion in the first movie, or as well as Henry Jones in the third movie.
Like the character itself, the fact that it's there, like I can judge it. Like it's fine. I don't really mind it too much, but I don't know. It just kind of feels out of place when you have this like weird greaser, diner brawl in the movie, an Indiana Jones movie, like very bizarre.
I like the idea of it more on paper than the actual execution. It was like the Odd Couple part of it didn't come out as fun as it could have. I think, in a way. Yeah.
I think with like the atomic bomb and stuff, though, that's all. It's trying so hard to tell you the time period it's in.
Yeah,
right? It's like, oh, the Russians are the bad guys now. There's atomic bombs.
Yeah, and the greasers
and yeah. So it wants you to know time has passed.
Yeah. But you have a nice touching moment over like they're at home and it's Professor Slughorn, whatever his name is supposed to be in this movie.
The actor's name.
But he's also in Game of Thrones. But he's like, we've gotten to the point where life quits giving us things and starts taking it away. And you see Marcus and his dad. So that's a nice little moment. And they get captured and they go to Peru and all this stuff. That when they find the tomb of something de Oriana, he's a conquistador.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun. I had relative fun with that.
Yeah, that wasn't. It was some classic spelunking, Indiana Jones spelunking scenes and whatnot. But the one part around there that it bothered me the first time I watched it, as someone who loved this movie, is him blowing the dart into the guy's throat.
Yeah, that just killed him.
Well, also it'd mean the dart would have to be double-sided.
Yeah.
Right? Because like the guy was gonna blow it out the one way. If he blows it the other way, then it wouldn't have injected into him or whatever. But
yeah, I suppose. But the whole stuff with the crystal skull itself looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like it's a pretty cool prop. Like, and how they made it.
Very cool design.
That's all pretty great. But just trying to think of, you have the sequence. The fire ant stuff is pretty fun, right?
Yeah.
Like the fire ants
That's kind of terrifying as a kid. That was probably the scariest part for me.
That one guy just all over and kills him.
Gets dragged into the anthill. I had the Lego set of the Jungle Cutter.
I did too. That was pretty cool.
It was a really cool Lego set. It's kind of a really dumb machine in the movie.
Really silly.
But it was a cool Lego set, and it like would spin when you roll it. Yeah, it was awesome.
It was really cool. So half of this conversation is us just
Legos.
talking about the Lego sets that were out in 2008. That scene was fun. You have Marion just driving them off the cliff saying, "Trust me," and they just land in a tree and come down or whatever. Mac is a terrible character. Mac is just horrible. Like, I'm sorry. Just like, oh, he's a double agent. They even like make fun of it in the movie. They're like, what are you, a triple agent? No, I was just lying about being a double agent. It's like, oh my gosh.
It's just annoying. That's his entire character. Is anytime he talks, it's pretty much just trying to figure out if he's a double agent or whatever. And oh my god, it doesn't make sense to me in context of the characters why Indy would ever be friends with him, because he's clearly just driven by money.
Yeah,
like, that's all he cares about. That's his whole character. And so it doesn't really make sense to me why Indy would be like really good friends with him in the first place.
Which doesn't seem to align with like his previous, the way they portray his previous character too. Like he's served in all these missions and all these things. It's like you would think if you served in that many, you wouldn't be like this, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But like I said, I thought the ending was kind of more fun when they're actually going in the waterfalls and then they get to the place and going through and they're exploring some of the actual themes of the movie of like, oh, the knowledge and these were archaeologist aliens and that sort of thing. I thought that was actually kind of cool. I did have the Crystal Kingdom of the Crystal Skull Lego set.
I think I also had that one. Yeah.
Which is a really good Lego set. It was a pretty good Lego set of the actual thing. Like you could actually go through the different scenes and whatnot. But yeah, I walked away thinking this movie is fine. Like it's really fine. It's not horrible, really. I just think it just doesn't live up to any of the originals.
Yeah, it's mostly boring. It doesn't like the dated CG makes it look worse than
lots of groundhogs.
Yeah, lots of the prairie dogs or whatever. I don't know why those are there. But yeah, the CG just kind of dates it. It makes it look worse than the older movies for the most part, honestly. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's bizarre that it was, I mean, I guess it was mid-2000s, so CG was all the rage and it was the cool thing, but I don't know.
It was 1 year after Transformers, Holden, so.
Yeah. So
there was a high bar.
I mean, Spielberg was hot off executive producing that movie.
That's right. What was I going to say now? Okay. This is funny. I had no idea Cate Blanchett was in this movie until I rewatched. I knew who Irina Spalko was when I was little, but then rewatching, I'm like, oh my gosh, Irina Spalko's Cate Blanchett. I mean, I haven't seen it since it came out. So it's like that never clicked in my head as a kid because I didn't know who Cate Blanchett was when I was a kid.
I didn't know as a kid either. I think I probably found out since then. But
and I'm not really thinking about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull a lot and her character. So
her performance is pretty good. Although there's one part in this, not really anything against her. Like when she first comes, there's one moment where she's just talking with a British accent.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you noticed it, but like she starts out, it's Russian and whatever, and she keeps that for most of the movie. But when she first is confronting Indy, there's like a line or two where it just sounds like a British accent. I was like, okay, I can see that peeking through Kate, but
yeah, her character was okay. I thought there was, obviously wasted potential there. But I don't know. I don't have a ton to say about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I don't really remember any of the score that, like any specific pieces or anything.
The one I do remember, and I remember it standing out to me when I was younger, was like when he's like staring at the skull, kind of like, I don't remember. I can't I wouldn't be able to hum it, but I remember that standing out to me, kind of that whatever piece John Williams used for that. Yeah. We didn't really mention Marion. She's kind of pointless in this movie. I think like she's good. She's great reprising her role, but she doesn't really serve much of a purpose. She didn't do as much as I remembered her doing.
Anything.
Yeah, I remembered her being a bigger character when I previously watched her, or watched the movie.
Yeah.
John Hurt is the friend Oxley or whatever.
Yeah.
He's great. I made a note in here that at the end of the movie when it's the wedding, I'm like, he cleaned up really well.
I did not recognize. I was like, who is that guy? And he's like, thanks, Ox. I'm like, oh, that's the guy who's been crazy the rest of the movie.
Every time I see John Hurt in something, I feel like he's always this disheveled, like old guy, like how he looks in this movie for most of it. So that's more how I'm used to seeing him. And then when I saw him at the end of the movie, I didn't even recognize him. Yeah. So,
and it's a nice touch when the hat blows in and Shia LaBeouf's gonna put it on. Indy takes it, puts it on. I mean, that's a nice moment.
Yeah.
And then he walks away happily ever after, except there's a 5th movie coming out. So what the heck happens? Is Indiana Jones going to die? Probably.
Probably. So a couple things I wanted to mention. One thing, they say I've got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, they do.
Movie, which I thought that was funny. The one line that really annoyed me was they said their treasure wasn't gold, it was knowledge. Knowledge was their treasure. It's just like, okay, we get it. Cool. Let's see.
I did the line where he's like, "You're a teacher?" He's like, "Part-time."
Part-time. Yeah, that was
a good line.
When he's when they're in the library and the kid asks him the question.
That's a good moment, and they're right. That's a good moment.
Get out of the classroom or library.
The library.
Or whatever. Yeah.
You want to be a good archaeologist, you got to get out of the library. But he also says in one of the other movies that 70% of archaeology is in the library. Is reading or something.
Yeah, he's contradicting himself.
Yeah. A little bit.
Maybe
he's learned over the years.
Maybe. The bit where they're sinking in the sand pit and he has to grab the snake. Oh, that was kind of funny. It's kind of stupid that's what he grabs is a big snake, but yeah, I remember liking that when I was a
kid. I feel like you could, but here's the deal. They went from being captured and then 10 minutes later they're captured again.
Yeah.
Like that was completely unnecessary.
It was pointless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just a moment for Marion to say, he's your son.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point. That is pretty much the entire purpose of that scene.
I mean, I can overlook it. It's all right.
Yeah. I feel like there is another big part. Oh, we didn't really talk about it too much. The jungle like chase thing.
The monkeys.
The monkeys look bad. Most of it is fine. It is obviously all like CG and like green screen, but like it's very silly. I don't hate the mutt in arena like sword fight on the scars. I think that's kind of fun.
I think it looks pretty silly.
Yeah, it is silly, but I was trying to find like little bits of action in here that I enjoyed, and that was probably like one of the only ones. But yeah, I don't know. Aside from that, I don't know.
I think that's it. So my ranking is 3, 1, 2, 4 so far.
Yeah, I think I'm actually in the exact same boat.
So
3, 1, 2, 4.
I think a lot of people are. Maybe flip 1, 3.
Yeah, 1 and 3's flipped a lot. But yeah, usually 2 and 4 are the last. I remember when like I was so my dad, when he first showed me these movies, he told me 2 was the worst. So I think for a long time I had myself convinced that 2 was worse than 4 because I watched 4 and I liked it, and then I was like, oh well, no one likes 2, but no, 2's better than 4 in my opinion.
See what you did, Scott Sutter,
influencing me,
ruiner of the podcast.
I have a drink, Jimmy.
Oh,
should we do this right now?
Sure, we can.
So it goes with 2 different things. So one, it's called Crystal Skull Vodka. I had heard about this a few years ago, but it's Dan Aykroyd's vodka brand. It's so bizarre. I'd heard about it because apparently like the advertising for it was very funny for a while. But I thought it would be funny.
So if you hear booms and stuff, that's Holden manipulating it with that. Oh, that was a nice noise. That
was a nice little pop.
That probably didn't get picked up by the microphone, but it was like a boop.
I should have done it. I would do it up close, but it's really heavy. I don't want to.
Yeah, now he's gonna spill it all over our expensive recording equipment.
So Jimmy is not as much of a drinker as me, so we'll see how this.
Oh golly!
I won't give you as much.
Thank you. This is a one. Yeah, that's good.
Let's do that.
Ready to just taste rubbing alcohol.
Yeah, it's literally just vodka. I thought about mixing. I'll put this over here for now.
There we go.
So I don't spend an hour trying to put that back on. But cheers, Jimmy, to Indiana Jones, huh?
There we go. To Indiana Jones, to archaeology. All right. Oh, golly, that's terrible.
That's kind of smooth, actually.
All right. Well, let's go on to our final segment of the show now, which is, of course, what are you doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing?
All right, Jimmy, this week, aside from drinking this, how are you doing, by the way?
That was... my tongue is a little weird, tingly.
Mine is too. And actually, before I move on, it is pretty smooth for vodka. I'm not huge on just drinking straight vodka. It's definitely like a mixing thing, but you can do a lot worse. I'm not sure it's worth how much I spent on it. But
it's very, I didn't pay for it.
Yeah, so I did it all for a bit for the podcast. So you should all be appreciative of it.
There you go. Now so if you made it to over 2 hours into this, that's what your reward was.
Yeah, this is Jimmy choking on vodka. But anyway, this week
we need to do this fast, Holden, because we're literally running out of memory.
Okay, I'll do it quick. So first off, I finished the new Clone High series. I thought it got better as it went. The second to last episode, it's like all a joke that it's like an awards contender episode, and they're playing off of it. But they also made like just a very good episode that I'm like, this could be award contender. It was like very emotional and weird, kind of out of place for the show, but it worked really well in context. So that was the best episode of the show, in my opinion. Season 1's done with that. It's Always Sunny, new season. I don't remember if I'd mentioned it before. Very funny though. 4 episodes in, it's really good so far. Barry, just watching more of that, still on season 3, and then I'm still playing the Kingdom Hearts rhythm game. I'm gonna platinum trophy it, Jimmy.
Nice.
So
Nice. What a great use of your time.
Yeah. What about you, Jimmy?
I've only been able to watch 1 episode of Barry, so I have 2 episodes left of the entire series. Otherwise, we're really struggling to get that on. And there you go.
I mean,
it's tough.
It's tight.
Yeah. All right. I have not been able to play like anything because I've been working on that Mulan video, which is finally done. I think it's pretty good. You should check it out. Check out my Mulan video on the YouTube channel. Thank you for everybody for watching it this far. Obviously, I've spent most of the time this week just watching all the Indiana Jones stuff and Secret Invasion. So, next week we will have Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny for you, as well as Secret Invasion Episode 2.
Very
so
exciting.
I believe that's everything. Oh, I did watch the first, or not the first. It was like the shortest episode of the new Black Mirror season.
How was it?
It was all right. It was the one. It was about. What was the name of this? It was about the paparazzis going after this actress, and it was all right.
Okay.
It wasn't messy.
There's one I've heard isn't very good, but I don't know which one that is. So.
It was okay. For 40 minutes or whatever. It kind of just ends, which I was like, it's all right. I wasn't that invested anyway. Okay. So, that's my thoughts on that. So, next week, Dial of Destiny, Secret Invasion Episode 2. Otherwise, I think that's all, Holden. So you can take us home.
Yeah. If you want to leave us a request, you can do so by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes or email us at tomppodcast@gmail.com or donate to our Patreon. And I believe that's it. Watch Jimmy's video.
Yeah, sweet. Until next time, adios, pantalones.
Love you.